Education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. For every aspiring Christite preparing themselves to face the future world, we present to you DAKSH 2023. Members of the audience, a very good morning to one and all present here. Christ University is pleased to bring to you all the brand new edition of DAKSH, the annual flagship event of the university. I am Anusha Ji and I shall be your MC for the day. DAKSH, the annual education and career guidance fair hosted by the Student Council of Christ, deemed to be university, is a one-stop destination for all things education. At DAKSH, you get to witness exclusive opportunities, imperative student guidance, acquire varied knowledge, and make informed choices regarding your education and your career. Without any further ado, we present to you today's session, Right Choice, Making a Successful Career in Writing. Mr. Shathrujeet Nath has sold ice creams, peddled computer training courses, written ad copy, and reported on business as a journalist and assistant editor at the Economic Times. While still at the top of his game, Sir quit journalism to write fiction. His first book, the Indo-Pak spy thriller The Karachi Deception, was published in 2013. He then went on to write the national best-selling epic fantasy series Vikramaditya Veeragatha, which comprises 4 books: The Guardians of the Halahala, The Conspiracy at Meru, The Vengeance of Indra, and The Wrath of the Hellfires. His latest book, The Warlord of Ayodhya Rebellion, is the first in a 3 volume alternative mythology series that tells the story of Bharat's 14-year rule over Ayodhya during the exile of Rama. Described as a new face to the Indian mythology by DNA, Mr. Shathrujeet Nath writes for movies and web shows as well. Sir, we are thrilled to have you amidst us today. We are looking forward to gaining more insights from your rich experience as a writer, journalist, author, and an editor. We welcome you onto the dais.
Thanks a lot. Thank you for that. Yeah, hi. Am I audible? Okay, great. Before I begin, big thank you to the Student Council at Christ University and everyone else for, inviting not just me, having all the speakers who have come in yesterday and are going to be coming in today. A big thank you from all of us. What you guys are doing is, I think, when I see sessions like this and when I see initiatives like Daksh, I feel that I should have been born. I should have been born. I'll give away my age. Okay, never mind. It doesn't matter. I should have been born at least 30 years later because when in our college we never had something like this. So there was no one who came and kind of spoke to us. So we were thrown into the deep end and asked to swim, and we just did that. But a big thank you to all of you, and totally honored, humbled, and happy to be with you guys. Very quickly, okay, I just wanted to get a sense of who is among the audience. You're all students of Christ, all of you, right? Okay. And what is the kind of breakdown? MA students, BA students, undergraduate, what's it like? Who all from MA? That's the bulk of you, right? And so few from an undergraduate, right? Okay, that's fine. And oh, okay, English and Masscom, right? Okay, how many in Masscom? Just quickly. Okay, so that's about 50, and the rest are from English, I guess. Okay, great. So I would like to keep this. I heard that this is a dialogue, and it should not end up like a monologue. So I would really want this to be a dialogue. I would So I've got a bare bones presentation. Just want to cover some thoughts of mine. Again, I might not have all the answers here. So please feel free. After this, we'll definitely be having a Q&A. I'd be happy to answer whatever questions I think I can answer. I don't have all the answers to all questions. I too am kind of learning as I go along. But very quickly, yeah. So yeah, I'm Shathrujeet Nath, author, screenwriter, and storyteller. And I have also been a copywriter. So I started my career in writing in probably 1994. Uh, I was in Cochin, and then of course I was also in Bangalore, and I worked in advertising in Bangalore in the mid 90s. And then I was a journalist, and I moved from advertising. I moved to journalism, and the fact was that I really had no training in any of these fields. So I was not trained to be a copywriter. I was not trained to be a journalist. I just happened to be a writer, and I ended up where I am today. But I've been writing for the last uh, 30 years of my life. So diverse experiences across different industries. So hopefully I am qualified to kind of make this statement, of telling you how to make a successful career out of writing, because I've been paying my bills for the last 30 years because of writing. So I think, yeah, you can make a successful career. Big question is usually happens when, especially when I tell people that I'm an author, either people think I'm poor or they think I'm rich. The truth is, I'm neither. I'm somewhere in between. But I don't know why people think that either you don't make any money as a writer or you're filthy rich. I don't know why they think that. Okay, but that's the truth. But yes, again, when I mean successful, it depends on how you define success, because success can be measured in terms of money, of course, but it can also be measured in terms of uh, how satisfied you are in life with what you are doing, how well known you are in that sphere of work that you've embraced. So I think it's important to measure success. So success is not purely in terms of money. I just want to kind of put that out there. Uh, so as I said, I quit journalism in 2009, and since then I've been writing fiction. I've been writing fiction for the last, whatever, 10 years now. My first book came out, Karachi, came out in 2013. So actually, it completes 10 years next month. And since then, I've been writing books. I am still writing books, and I hopefully will continue writing books till the day I die. And I also write for movies and shows and stuff like that. So we can talk about that later. But so one of the things that I wanted to kind of share with you people, and I know there are enough people from Masscom, so some of these questions would probably already be answered. But for a lot of you who are probably still trying to figure out, what you want to do, while how many of you actually want to be writers? That's like, okay, don't lie. I want more hands up. Okay, never mind. So that's a sizable amount, but still, and I think I really want to kind of qualify this about, what do you mean by writing, and what do you mean by the creative ideas business? Because I think there's a little bit of a confusion there, and not everyone who is a writer ends up in the creative ideas business, and not everyone in the creative ideas business is actually a writer. But these are very allied businesses. Okay, so I'll just kind of take my thinking through before we get to that. I'm trying to get at, how do you make that distinction? What kind of a writer are you? Okay, how many of you write for the joy of writing? Even those who don't want to be writers, you write for the joy of writing, right? Okay, and how many of you don't write but do things like, you do vlogs, podcasts, stuff like that? Anyone does that? A few of you do that. Okay. Any stand-up comics out here? I am not competing with them, but anyone? No, no one, right? Okay. So the reason why I ask these questions is because, people don't realize that all these fields or areas of specialization actually require a lot of writing. We don't realize that actually stand-up comedy requires so much of writing. I didn't know that till I met a friend of mine who is a mid-level stand-up comic. I don't laugh at his jokes, so that's why I call him mid-level. But I just look at the amount of writing he does just to know how to land those jokes, make those jokes work, timing, all of that. Okay. So before we get to that, I just want to look at, there are different types of writers. And this is something that I have observed over a period of time. These are not watertight compartments. It doesn't mean that you can be only one type of writer, but these are the broad blocks, right? So the first set is what I usually like to call a craft focused writer. Okay. And what I mean by a craft focused writer is these are people who are, let me step out so that you guys can also take a look at this. Uh, Craft focused writers are people who are really good at the craft of writing. Okay. They enjoy the craft, whether it's chiseling a very badly written piece of copy into readable, comprehensible copy in newspapers, for example. Or it could be people who are your content writers, it could be editors, book editors. You'd be surprised to know the number of books that actually that you read are not necessarily the work of the author. The story is the work of the author, but what you finally read could actually be the work of a person who actually sits and beautifies the book and makes it worth reading, and makes it easy for it to be read. So these are essentially people who love the skill of crafting uh, good copy. Okay. So in newspapers, for example, you'll find a lot of people in the copy desk. How many of you have read The Economist? You're aware of that magazine, right? The Economist. The Economist has a copy desk which has got a fabulous set of rewriters, and their only job is to take what the journalist writes and they rewrite it. And they rewrite it in such a way that it becomes such a compelling piece of reading material. So that's what they do. So they don't even necessarily understand what the story is. Obviously they do, but they're not the people who actually chase and write the story. They beautify the story. So that's one kind of writer. Uh, the second kind of, and again, this is a qualification, whether it's a writer or is it I call them an idea focused creator. Now, these are people who are not necessarily writers, but what they do is they have this unique talent of coming up with big, interesting ideas. Okay, and these ideas could be for movies, it could be for events, it could be for whatever. Okay, it's essentially they're very creative people, but they're not necessarily writers. And I tend to use the word ideas person or big picture guy for this sort of person. Okay, uh, they're essentially people who are the idea for them is what is exciting. And is there anyone here who's looking at advertising as a career? Just a while out there. Okay, that's a few people out there. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay, great. So and advertising really attracts a lot of people like this. Advertising, events, PR, I'm not so sure. I've never really worked in a PR company. And I think PR from the time when I was working in journalism, I think PR has also changed. So honestly, I don't know much about PR today. But advertising, yes, I still do. I'm in touch with a lot of people in the advertising business. So these are people who are excited by big creative ideas. Then the next kind of a writer is the skilled storyteller. Now this is a very rare breed. Okay, these are people who actually are a mix of the idea focused creator and a little bit of the craft focused writer. Okay, but they're also a little more than both. These are people who actually have the ability to see a story, and it could be in journalism, it could be in, they could be bloggers, they could be journalists, they could be authors, they could be filmmakers, documentarists, whatever it is. Okay, they know a good story. They can see a good story. Where other people don't see a story, they'll be able to figure it out. And especially those who are in mass media, I think it's important to realize that how do you know what is a good story, and how do you chase it? How do you structure that story? It's basically the entire craft of telling that story. That's what the skilled storyteller really does. Okay, which is why I use the word, they have a knack of identifying stories, the news hound. Editors tend to be very, very good at this business because they have a nose for what is a great story, how to make it work, how does the story fall in place, all of that, right? So that's one. And the fourth, and this is actually for me, it's more an afterthought. It's not really a distinct category, but I think it has potential for becoming a distinct category, which is the researcher. Now, these are people who are extremely fascinated with the nitty gritty of facts. These are people who will probably spend their lives on, they would be contributors to Wikipedia. There's an entire set of people who just love facts and mining facts. They are great assets for news organizations, I believe. I believe news organizations probably uh, don't look for talent which is so unique, but I believe they should, because these are people who really know how to go after facts, get and those facts that really help tell the story so much better. This is something that we in filmmaking and even as authors we use a lot. The amount of research that goes into telling a story. How do you tell a good story, right? Research is such an important part of this. So these are, again, as I said, these are not watertight compartments. You could be a bit of two or a bit of three, and I'll just come to that. So essentially, it's, as I said, there's the craft focused writer, there's the idea focused creator, skilled storyteller, and the researcher, right? Why is this important? You might ask. Why is this even important? It's important because, and you might not have the answers to this today, where you are, we are all in our own graphs in our writing careers. I might be somewhere else a little ahead of you because of having started 30 years before you did. But you might not have all the answers, but it would be good to know. The sooner you figure out where you are in this, that's where you start building your skills, because you know you're good at it, you like doing that. So if you are, like, for example, my wife, and I'm giving you an example from our home. I believe I am more a skilled storyteller. I was quite excited by this craft focused writer thing when I was in journalism. Today, I don't really think too much about that. I'm more in the idea focused and skilled storyteller space. I'm more excited about storytelling than about the craft of it. Okay, I'm still excited about it. My wife is a craft focused writer. She does not, she does not, she cannot tell a good story. She will rarely come up with a great story idea. She was also a journalist, but then she left journalism. Give her copy, and badly written copy or copy that has mistakes, whatever it is, and that's what she does. She works as a content editor. She also edits books and magazines and stuff like that. She's a craft focused writer. That's her strength. She figured that out. So the reason why I kind of do this breakdown whenever I share this with people who want to write is, the sooner you know where you are in this, uh, or who do you want to be. If you want to be an idea focused creator, what do you need to do? How is it different from craft focused writing, whatever it is? So I think that's why it's kind of important to know where you are in that journey. Two very quick things on this. Most of the time you have to be good at least two of these to actually make a successful career in writing. This is kind of important. And the second is that if you have mastery over any three of these, then I really think you are a well-rounded creative professional. That's just a thought that I have. Again, uh, using examples from my experience in while writing for movies, I know directors, film directors in Hindi cinema. I know one director. He cannot even begin working on a movie without a film script. He needs a film script to start thinking about an idea. Eventually that film script and his the final product might be completely different, because he'll obviously bring, and he's a talented filmmaker. I'm not taking any names. He's a very talented filmmaker, but he needs that script. Without that script he cannot even start working on a project. I know another filmmaker, again a very talented filmmaker. He's full of ideas. Okay, so he's more like the idea focused creator and the skilled storyteller. He can't write. So he will sit with writers and tell them what his vision for the movie is. Or he will tell us what the vision for his scene is. And then he'll get writers to sit and write it out and flesh it out, which helps him then conceive the scene better. So I think that's where I'm trying to get at. The fact that not everyone can do all of these things, and there is potential for a career anywhere in this space. That's where I'm going, right? Okay. So this is one thought that I have. I have a few thoughts which are kind of disparate. I'm going to kind of just put this out there, and then we can kind of generally have a Q&A. We can talk about stuff that is here, not here, anything else you want to talk about, whatever we can do, right? Okay. Uh, this is the second thing I hear a lot, especially when people come to know that I have been writing for a long time. I write books, especially when they come to know that I write books and I write fiction. There's this constant thing about I'm very passionate about writing. People very often. How many of you are passionate about writing? Okay, okay, you're quite passionate about writing, right? Okay, so I want to look at about being passionate and about how do you do that as a career? Who all said they are passionate about writing? I don't see any hands now. Just in the last slide, I saw lots of hands, but now no hands. Right? Okay. I genuinely believe that passion is way overrated. Way overrated when it comes to making a career as a writer. What is more important than passion is perseverance. That is really it's so important in the line of it's true about actually any career, whatever career you pick, you've got to be you've really got to persevere, right? But when it comes to writing, it is so important. Can anyone tell me why perseverance is so important? Any guesses? Why is perseverance so critical in the writing business, especially if you're writing fiction? Right. Yes, you are there, but there's a little bit more to it. Yes, anyone? Yeah, go ahead. Right, that is also part of it. Okay, you're partly right, you're partly right. You have to come back every day and do the thing that you don't like to do, right? Which is why people think that writing is about passion, which means I will come there and do it every day. After the fifth day, you don't want to go there because you are done with it. But then, after 5 days, if you're done with it, then your passion is gone and there's nothing that's left. All that's left is the desire to write. And how do you make it work for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 20 years? That's what perseverance. Why it becomes more important, and to specifically answer that question, is that writing is a very solitary profession. It's very lonely. Writing is one of the loneliest professions that, see, let's suppose now I were a painter. Okay. I take a canvas and I start painting some stuff. Within, even if I'm a moderately talented painter, within 20 minutes, you will start understanding what I'm trying to draw. You'll probably know, oh, mountains. Okay. Oh, some waterfall. Whatever it is, you'll know something, right? When I write a book, it takes me 5 to 7 months to write it. And at any point, if anyone comes in and looks at one page, it doesn't make any sense to them. That one page makes no sense because they have to read the preceding 100 pages and they have to read the following 200 pages for that one page to make sense. It is so solitary, so nobody knows what we writers do. That is why perseverance is so important, because all the validation has to come from within. There is hardly any external validation while you are writing. After you have written it, people read it, wow, this was such a great story, whatever, journalism, whatever it is, movie, whatever it was. But while you are writing it, it is a solitary profession, which is why perseverance is so important, right? The most important reason why perseverance is writing is actually rewriting. It's a joke that I keep saying. I want my visiting card to write Shathrujeet Nath, rewriter. Because I'm not a writer. I write once, There are so many times I have to rewrite that same thing to achieve whatever I want to say, either in terms of clarity or craft or whatever it is. Okay. So I have to, as writers, we just keep rewriting. So that's what it is about. So, this is one of my favorite quotes. I keep saying that go back, rewrite, make it harder for yourself, make it better for the reader. The more you rewrite, the more attention you pay to clarity in your storytelling. You know, sometimes I've got readers, they come and tell me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, other authors, other filmmakers, oh, your story was so easy. It was how easily you write. No, I don't write easily. I suffer when I write. I suffer when I write, and that's what makes you believe that it comes out easily. Because if I had written easily in the first draft and whatever I'd given, it wouldn't have made any sense to you. You would have spat on it and walked off. That's what you would have done. So that's what it is. Readers enjoy good writing because there is craft, there is time has gone into it. Okay. Now I'm going to say, okay, who said passion is overrated? I did, right? Shucks. The irony is that you will persevere only if you have passion. This is the absurd. So I was the guy who said passion is overrated. Actually, the irony is that without passion, you cannot persevere. So this is an absurd situation. I know I'm contradicting myself, but the thing is, perseverance is so important. You can't persevere unless you're passionate because it's so easy to give up and walk away, right? It's so easy. It happens to me all the time. Uh, how many of you know about the one third rule? I got to know about the one third rule about 3 weeks ago. And I was so excited. I said, I'm going to put it in some presentation. I'm using it now. Okay. So this is not my idea. I was watching something as one of those Instagram reels or something. There's this uh, there's this woman who's an athlete. I think she's a Brazilian athlete. It's her reel, and she talks about her coach. And this one third rule is supposed to be her coach's idea. What it says is that one third of the time we are good, one third of the time we are okay, one third of the time we are bad. Technically speaking, it means only one third of the time we are actually good, two-thirds of the time we are less than good. But, and that is the truth about everything that we do. In writing, if two-thirds of the time we are bad, it's so easy to turn away and walk away, right? Saying that I don't want to do this. I am so bad at it. But you don't persevere. That's what brings you here, and passion. Okay, so very quickly on that. Again, something which it's almost like a personal motto for me. For those who can't read, I'm quickly reading this out. The difference between wanting to write and having written is 1 year of hard, relentless labor. I use the term labor, and that's what it is. Okay, it's a bridge you have to build all by yourself, all alone, all through the night, while the world goes about its business without giving a damn. The only way of making this perilous passage is by looking at it as a pilgrimage. It's passion, pilgrimage. That's what it's you have to start believing that there is a larger good to it. That's the way I see it. Okay. Okay, very quickly, again, I don't know because I really didn't know what kind of a mix we have here. So I don't know how much of this is going to be relevant to you people. But I guess most of you probably know this. So I'm kind of going to gloss over it. What are the kind of career avenues? Okay, we probably know that. This, I think, is a little bit more important for those of you who do want to make a career. Okay, I must also tell you this. When I was in college, I have a lot of author friends who tell me we started writing when we were 6 years old. My first piece of writing, I wrote an essay when I was 8, and it got published in my school magazine. I hated writing as a kid. My mother used to force me to write. I used to hate it. I genuinely used to hate writing. I started becoming a writer only probably when I was about in my 20s. Okay. So honestly, when I was in college, if somebody had asked me that would you see yourself as a writer, I would have laughed. I would have said, there's no way I'm going to be a writer. Okay. Today that's what I am. That's where life brings you. Okay. For those of you who do want to make a career, what are your creative strengths as a writer or ideator? As I said, those four things that when we started, what is the kind of space you see yourself in? Again, these are not answers that you can have today. It might take you 6 months to find it. It might take you 2 years to find it. I don't know when. But the sooner you find it, the better. More importantly, when you set out to write, is there an academic specialization that you can leverage? So let me give you one example. How many of you have heard of this show called LA Law? Okay, you might not. The Practice, Ali McBeal. I'm talking to a generation that's okay. Never mind. Yeah, never mind. Okay, how many of you know of Doogie Howser, MD? No. Okay. One person. You saved me. Okay. Okay. Uh, there's this Hollywood writer, very famous, very his name is David Kelly. So David Kelly was a law student, and what happened was that he wanted to break into the writing business. He didn't want to do law. He wanted to get into the writing business. He was fortunate that in the 80s, late 80s, there used to be the show called LA Law, and it was very big at that time. So LA Law, the producer, wanted young writers to join his team. And what was the only criteria that the producer had? He wanted the writer to have a background in law, because the show is about law. David Kelly was one of the writers who broke in through that particular show. Eventually went on to write mega hit shows like The Practice, Ally McBeal. These are all very big shows in the US, right? John Grisham. I hope you guys have heard of John Grisham, right? Yeah, so you know, John Grisham himself was a lawyer, right? So that's what I mean. I mean, is there a specialization? How many of you have heard of Hussein Zaidi? Yeah, so Hussein Zaidi, right? Hussein Zaidi writes crime, and he usually writes real crime. Hussein Zaidi was fortunate because he has spent a lifetime as a journalist reporting on crime, specifically during the 80s and 90s in Mumbai, when you know the gang wars, and you know Dawood Ibrahim was around, and Chota Rajan and all of that stuff. So I think Hussein Zadi was very fortunate that he was able to be in Mumbai at that time, reporting on crime and the underworld. And he brought all that expertise and knowledge, and has written so many books, you know, whether it's the Queens of Mafia, Queens of Mumbai, Black Friday, all of that. You know, he's got a body of work. So that's what I meant. You bring in your specialization into it, right? Is there another passion that you can marry with your desire to write? So, for example, uh, I can't think of anything right away. But for example, if you're a mountaineer, for example, can you bring that passion into your writing? Do you love cars? Okay. Um, I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Figure out what else can you do? These are three very quick things, very important to remember. Build contacts, find a mentor. If you're serious about writing, find a mentor, someone who can help you craft and figure out what kind of a writer you are. Okay. Build contacts, find a mentor, show your work around. This is very important, because as a writer, if other writers don't even know you exist, how are you going to uh, network? That's true about any line of business. You've got a network. I think the last one is very important, that when you want to work, and especially this is true for people who want to work, who are from mass communication, want to work either in journalism or want to work in advertising or whatever it is, or even, for example, you might want to work with a filmmaker. If you want to work with, so for example, if you like the work of, say, Anurag Kashyap, for example, or you love the work of Sriram Raghavan, uh, and you want to work with them, figure out what is the kind of work they like. How do you kind of lift your craft? I'm not saying do the same kind of ideas that they do. They don't need that. They are very good at doing those kind of ideas. How do you do the kind of stories that make them look at you and say, wow, I like this guy, I like this girl, they're talented, I want to work with them, I want them to work with me? How do you do that? So basically, you have to lift your game to a level where they start noticing you. Okay. I know it sounds very easy to say, not easy to do, but that's what it takes. It took me probably 5 years to do that, because there was no one to tell me that that's how it's done. If you start early, it might take you just 2 years to do that. So the sooner you jump onto it, the better. Very quickly, last few things before I kind of throw it open. Uh, two. two don'ts and two do's about the writing career. Okay. Somebody spoke about inspiration, right? About passion. You spoke about that, right? This is one thing I genuinely believe in. Don't wait for inspiration. One of my favorite things I love saying is that some days the muse will not show up. Those days, specifically, the writer must. Because it's if you can wait for inspiration to come, and inspiration doesn't come actually. If we're lucky, inspiration comes once in 6 months. Other days, you just have to sit there in front of your laptop or word processor or whatever it is. Or I know people who still write by hand. I can't, but I know people who do it well. You just have to do it. You have to turn up every day, sit and write. That's what Stephen King says. It. You know Stephen King, right? Stephen King says that you just have to shut the door on the world and sit and write. It doesn't matter if it's garbage. It doesn't matter because it's only when you start writing that two things happen. One is your craft improves as the more you write, the better your craft gets. More importantly, you start knowing what is garbage and what is good. So you can, over a period of time, you start writing less nonsense and better good stuff. That's why. Okay. So every day, that's important. Again, this is just a variation. Writing is just inspiration is just 1%. It's the rest is just hard work. Very important. I have heard so many people use this. Understand your audience. Understand your audience. This is a thing that I hear in every industry. I don't know how I can understand my reader. I don't know how I can understand my audience for today. I'm giving you an example from a conversation that I had in Bombay with a production house that wants to make a film, or they're hoping to make a film. So I had this conversation. I met them, and so you know that there's this movie called Drishyam, which is this big hit stuff, right? So even in Hindi, they've done a Drishyam, and that's also done very well. Okay. So I go into this meeting, and this guy looks across the table and tells me, "Drishyam jaisa kuch hai kya?" So that's what he wants to know. He wants to know whether I've got a story like Drishyam. What's the point? Even if I have a story like Drishyam, we start working on it. By the time it comes out, it's 2 years. The audience has moved on from Drishyam. They have moved on to other things, and then he'll come out with Drishyam and it'll bomb, and he'll say, "But why did it bomb? I made a movie like Drishyam. Yeah, you should have made it when Drishyam got made, na? Not 2 years or 3 years after that." So that's the problem. Audiences are constantly shifting. Readers are constantly shifting. It's impossible to second guess what your readers want. I have tried to second guess readers, failed very badly. So don't go there. What is I think important? The only thing which is kind of important is the other story. You people know the story of Amish, right? Amish, what is his pet story? When he came out with Shiva trilogy, he went to every publishing house in India at that time, and everyone told him only one thing: mythology doesn't sell in India. Everyone told him that, right? They apparently knew their audience. They are publishers, they are big publishers, they know the audience. So they said nobody buys. Amish has now become a mega hit selling mythology. Not only him, there are people like Anand Neelakantan, there are people like me, there are people like Kavita Kane. We write mythology, we write fantasy. We all are doing well. I would love to meet those publishers who said no to Amish. I would want to shake their hand and say thank you, sir. Because they obviously did not know anything about their audience. So don't even go there. Okay. This is something which is connected to don't guess. You have to be very honest with yourself as a writer or a creator. Again, I'm using the word writer loosely, as a creator, as a filmmaker, whatever it is. Why is this so important? You have to do something that you love. And you when you're honest about it, two things happen. One is you give your best. The second is that even if it doesn't work, in the market for whatever reason, at least you have had joy and happiness making it. If you didn't have joy and happiness making it and it bombed in the market, imagine you have disappointed your readers, you have even disappointed yourself. Why do you want to do that? So be honest to yourself, always, and be as original as possible. There is a big debate about, what is the point in being original? Isn't it so much easier to copy from someone else? Yes. But if you look at all interesting ideas, Look at every idea that you have loved. 9 out of 10 you'll find it was probably original in some form or the other. It had never been done that way before. That is something that you must remember. It might not be 100%, nothing is 100% original. Okay, it was never done that way before. Two quick things on this, how to be original. Learn to see things that other people don't see or can't see. This is very important. Look for opportunities in existing ideas. I'm going to give you a very kiddie experience. How many of you know about this? Okay, some do, right? Okay, some of you do. This is all more from my generation stuff, but these are stories by Enid Blyton, and they were basically stories about that were set in schools and hostels and stuff like that, right? So this is one idea that Enid Blyton had. How many of you know this? Quite a few of us know this, right? What is this is about? This is about magic, fantasy, and all of that, right? So we have this known idea, existing idea. We have this known idea, existing idea. What do you do if you mix both? This is what I mean by being original. She didn't come out with something totally different. She just knew how to spin it a little different. You take a hostel, kids having fun in a hostel. You bring in magic from two different universes, put them together, you get Harry Potter. Great example, right? Put different ideas together in ways never done before. We all know, for those who can't see clearly because of glare, this picture on the left on is basically it's a monster under the bed. We all know about monsters under the bed, right? All kids have the monster under the bed story. What is on your right are basically factory workers, middle class America. What is common between them? You take monsters, make them heroes, middle class heroes, and spin the story. I have such admiration for Pixar as a company. I just love everything they do. I just completely love. I wish I could work for Pixar. If I had a dream, that would be it. Okay. I just love the way they know how to spin stories. They take ideas which are so simple and they just know how to spin it in new ways never done before. Okay. I've got a lot of these, but I'm not going into that. Uh, so one very quick example. Again, this was from one of my series is. That's basically Vikramaditya. For those of you who have read Chanda Mama, I don't know if you've read Chanda Mama. There used to be this magazine. So it was basically Vikram and Vetal stories. Then you've got Avengers, which are basically a bunch of superheroes who are trying to save the world or the universe uh, against the bad guys, big bad guys. And then there's this Amrit Manthan episode, which is there in Hindu mythology. So these are three different ideas, right? Completely, there's nothing common between them. No, there is. There is this that's common between them, which is my series. It just takes all these three elements and puts it all together about a bunch of superheroes who've got to save the universe from the halahal. That's what it is, in a very simple way, okay? But that's my point. It's just how do you kind of make it all work, right? To paraphrase Oscar Wilde, I love that Oscar Wilde quote. I'm just kind of borrowing from him. Be original because everything else is taken. Thank you. I am happy to take any questions, any thoughts you might have. There might be questions, there might be thoughts, whatever it is. You can pass this around if anyone has anything. Yes, please. I'll answer.
Am I audible?
If I was, then you are.
So I'm a published author myself. I've co-authored about 9 books so far.
Okay.
But I do constantly juggle between the dilemma that what I'm writing for books is so different from journalistic writing. Even though I've written extensively in journalistic form, kind of feel guilty with the fact that I'm not writing enough creativity wise, I would say. So, how do you or how did you juggle through similar emotions if you have?
Okay. Very quickly, are you a journalist as well?
I'm studying multimedia journalism, so
Okay.
yeah, that's
And your question is that you probably you don't get your creative thrills from writing journalism, and that's why you would rather write books.
I used to write books
Okay.
previously.
Okay.
Now, obviously, I'm interning and all of that. So, my writing or the expression is coming in a more journalistic format
Okay.
than it's coming through writing fiction in
Okay.
books.
Okay.
So, I constantly feel guilty because I don't give enough time for writing fiction.
Okay.
So, how do I juggle that constant?
Very difficult,
Yeah.
very difficult. I had to quit journalism to write fiction. It's not something I would recommend. I would never. I would recommend if none of you have to worry about it because you're still very early in your career paths. But a lot of people ask me that should we quit our jobs and start writing? I tell no, don't do that. Such a bad idea because that enthusiasm can disappear in a month, a couple of months, and your money in your bank balance starts disappearing even sooner. So it's a really bad idea. But I had to do that. I quit journalism because I wanted to write fiction. Difficult to do, but not impossible. I think Hussein Zaidi is a good example of that. There are others. Manu Joseph. Manu Joseph is you're familiar with Manu Joseph's name? Manu is, I think, a very good example of someone who still writes. I don't know how much he writes in journalism anymore, because primarily I think he basically writes only books. But he was a good example of that. Um, Difficult to do because they call for two different kind of skill sets. One is very fact based, and it's very cut and dried. The uh, I would actually look at it as an opportunity. I would say that if you are writing and if you focus on journalism, try to and you know what the journalistic style is. So when you are writing non-fiction or when you're writing fiction, uh, try to do it in a way that you don't look at it as journalism at all. Look at it more as storytelling. That might help you a bit, I guess. It's difficult, but maybe that's the solution. Try it and see. Have you tried anything?
I've been very distant, which is why the question popped up. So I primarily write short stories.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So I've gotten a deal so far with the publication that I've co-authored with. So they want about I think 13, 14 stories by June,
So
and it's
one of the things you could do is that you turn around and say that every Saturday and Sunday I will do nothing but write fiction. So what happens is by the second week, by Friday evening, you've taken off one hat, mentally you've made a switch, which might make it easier for you to start writing fiction because you have dedicated time for that now. Maybe that's another way of doing it. So because you now created dedicated time and space, it might work out. Try that and see. Oh, I hope it works for you.
something that so I was working on a magazine with Ruskin Bond when I a few years ago. So he had said that even if an ant is walking by, make sure it makes way into your writing. And I feel like journalism gives me that power of observation, but the fact that the writing styles are so different, the switch mentally just doesn't happen
I
all the
think
time.
yeah, it's just a question of getting used to it, probably. If, as I said, if you dedicate that time to writing fiction, then probably that would probably help you. But yeah, difficult, very difficult. I confess I don't know the answer to that because I've never done it myself, and I can't turn around and say quit journalism. I no bad idea. Don't do that.
Thank you so much.
I hope that helps. Yeah, don't worry, we'll come to everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So firstly, I would like to congratulate you. It was great to listen to you, and thank you for taking my question. So I've written a book. This was way back in 2019. What I would like to say is that time I had a lot of emotion turmoil, so I used to put it in writing. It was a escape, a vent for me, and my stories, my poems, they're very raw and unfiltered, which people liked, and even I like to read. As time passed, like to present day, I don't know, the thinking kind of changed, more diplomatic kind of way. I'm not able to bring that raw, that fire in the poems to be more unfiltered
Correct.
like that. It's like as you grow up, diplomacy is kind of ingrained in you, and you're not able to think in that kind of way. Like how to find that rawness, that unfilteredness back in
Very hard,
poems.
very hard. I have the same problem with writing poems. I don't think I've written a decent poem in the last 2 years. Okay. Yeah, forget decent. Like even I'm not happy with what I've written, and I don't know why. I'm not being able to do it. Uh, so it's very difficult to do that because when you lose that, what drove you, and you don't get that. Uh, One way is the obvious thing is try and find that emotional turmoil again, which is a bad way to do it. But if that is your trigger, uh, then that's what it is. And so, like for example, they used to say these about these Urdu poets from the the 1800s and all of that. That these Urdu poets used to actually go and fall in love in the hope that they will be rejected, so that they could write those fantastic poems about rejection. Because if they're accepted, then there's no poetry for them, right? So these are stories. I don't even know if they're true, but it's that's what they were supposed to have done. Very difficult to do this, but. Especially finding emotional stuff very difficult. Are we running on time? We're okay. Okay, okay, cool. So yeah, so I think very difficult to do this. Try and find what is it that got you into that space. I know that can also be traumatic because you don't want that, but at the same time you want. I'm sorry.
Dropping out. I don't think I want to do that again.
None. That's really difficult. But again, if that's something that you can kind of rediscover, consciously rediscover and tap into, then that's a space that's good. I don't know how you're going to do that, but so yeah. So I think we're running out of time, but uh, I am outside. I can sit with you guys. Anyone who wants to talk, we can do that because I think we're running out of time, right? Okay. So once again, thanks a lot, all of you guys, and I'm outside, so I'll see you. God bless all of you.
Due to time constraints, we'll have to stop here, but sir is ready for you to take your questions outside. Thank you so much, sir, for such an eye-opening session. I'm sure we all had immense takeaways and gained infinite insights into writing from today. That brings the proceeding of this session to a close. We are extremely grateful to Mr. Shathrujeet Nath for sharing his time, knowledge, and enthusiasm with us. I request our faculty coordinator, Professor Padma Kumar, to come upon the dais and present Mr. Shathrujeet Nath a token of gratitude on behalf of the Student Council. Thank you. Oh, yes, sir. Thank you to everyone for attending this event, and we, the Student Council, hope that each one of you present here takes home a new perspective about your future endeavors. Thank you, Team DAKSH, for coordinating the seamless operations of this event. Have a lovely day. Thank you.